As Reverend Mary stated, today's talk title is, Where's My Reset Button? And as we've been exploring Emma Curtis Hopkins and the 40 Days to Freedom, what she's been talking about is the freedom from the bondage of self, the freedom from the bondage of lack and limitation, the freedom from the bondage in which we set ourselves up in. Throughout the month, one of the things that has been so clear to me is that we have an opportunity right now to recognize the things that are no longer true, the things that we've been told, the things that we've been taught, the things that we've acculturated to or assimilated to, that are lies in our lives. And today we get to look at those things and we get to call it what it is, without blame or shame to our parents or our grandparents or whomever it is that taught it to us. It is now our responsibility as adults and as thinking people to recognize the lie, hit the reset button, and know the truth. And we all have a reset button. As I was looking to prepare this talk, I wondered about this thing called a reset button and where it comes from and what's the use of a reset button. And everything that I pulled up was all about computers and electronic gadgets. And the purpose of the reset button is to restore the device back to the manufacturer's suggested default, if you will. And I know that if I've ever hit the reset button on my computer, it turns off. And then it takes a really long time for it to turn back on. And I began to think to myself, wow, that is a great analogy for our life. A great analogy that if indeed we have a reset button, which we do, out of all the buttons you want to have, that people can push, you want to at least have a reset button, right? Because at least with the reset button, if we get restored back to our manufacturer's suggested default, our manufacturer default programming is right where I am, God is. I am whole, I am complete, I am perfect. That which is true of God is true about me. There's one power, one presence, one life. That life is God. That life is my life now. That would be our default. That would be what we would reset ourselves to. Because what has happened for us is that along the way, we've picked up maybe some computer viruses or some faulty programming, and we've used it as a law in our life. We've dealt with it. We've believed it. And like a friend of mine says, when I believe that which I learned when I was 5 years old, and now as an adult, I'm still living by that, it's like being informed by a 5-year-old. Oops, there it is. It's like being informed by a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old, or whenever it was that we were wounded, or whenever it was that we picked up that message that somehow or another we weren't grand enough or great enough or worthy enough or lovable. Wherever it is that we picked up that message and took it and kept it in our pocket and kept looking at it like it was the truth of who we are and kept looking at it as if it were a reflection of who we really were, that's who we're being informed by. And so we have an opportunity to create, if we don't have one already, a reset button. Just that place in our own awareness and our own consciousness when we recognize that we are continuing the lie, or when we are believing a lie, or when we are going with status quo and mediocrity, when we recognize it at that point, we can hit the reset button. Oops. You know, don't hurt yourself like the V8 commercials. But it's similar. It's similar. Hit the reset button. Where's my reset button so that I could just stop? Shut it down. Shut that chatter down. Shut it down. Shut it down. That's right. Shut it down. That mind chatter that tells us that we're nothing, that we're no good. We have to shut it down and recognize in the stillness of that moment to be still and know. It's almost like that computer is being still and knowing the truth as it is now reconfiguring itself, as it is now dumping all programs that have been placed into it. And it is just being restored to its original manufacturer-suggested programming. That's what we have the opportunity to do. Interestingly enough, you know, that's what this month has been like for me working with Emma. Because when I restore myself, when I hit that reset button, when we as a community hit that reset button and begin to really know the truth for ourselves and live from that place, we are now living from that place of freedom. And that's what we've been talking about all month long. Freedom from these beliefs that we're shackled, freedom from this belief that we're limited, freedom from the belief in illness, freedom from the belief that there's death, freedom from the false beliefs that we are separate from source, from spirit. When we hit the reset button and we pause, whether it's through our prayer, our meditation, or just simply shutting it down for a moment, we get to renew ourselves. We get to restore ourselves. We get to remind ourselves of the truth and make a different choice. And make a different choice. We no longer have to stay with old information that's not the truth. So it's interesting because it's one thing to have believed the lie all the way along. But now that we're showing you that it's not the truth, gosh, if you choose to just kind of stay with it, so be it. No harm, no foul, no judgment. However, we have this choice. We have this choice to make the correction. Oh, I was thinking that I wasn't enough. Well, that's not the truth. Because what I know is God is right where I am. God is living in, through, and as me right now. You know, this month, Emma talked about earlier, I think when we left on Wednesday, once we left Wednesday night and I started again back in the daily practice of writing in my book and reading it and rereading it, one of the things that she talked about was how we get distracted by other people. You know, that it is our job, it is our joy, in fact, to see the good in others. My good is my God. To recognize the wholeness and the perfection in each other and in one another. To name everything as good, even when we don't experience the fullness of its good, even when we don't see its good, that we name it good, that we call it good, that I see prosperity, I see love. I see love. Hi, beloved. You know, that we see it, that we're looking for it, so we see it and we find it. You know that silly saying, if you go out looking for trouble, what you gonna do? Find it. Why? Because you're looking for it. Hello? The other silly saying is, it's always the last place you look. You know, like I'm looking for something, but it's always the last place you look. Well, why? Of course it's always the last place I look, because if I find it, why would I keep looking? You know? Like that one's always so silly for me. But if you, right? Anyway, I digress. If I go looking for trouble, I'm going to find it because I'm looking for it. So I'm looking for the wrong. I'm looking for how you're messed up. You know, everybody might sing your praises and be like, oh, so-and-so is just, the greatest thing since sliced bread. And if my mindset is like, oh, no, I'm going to find something wrong with him or her, I'm going to find it. You see how tight those pants are? See how he slurs his words? Has he been drinking? I'm going to find something because that's where my mindset is. Whereas what Emma's talking about is that we have to look beyond all of that, beyond the effect, beyond the conditions, that we get to look at the good in everyone, because all that other stuff is just a distraction. It's a distraction, like road signs are a distraction for us getting to our destination. It's a distraction that keeps us from knowing and seeing and experiencing our good. When I'm constantly looking for the fault in someone else, I'm really just pointing at myself. I know that it lives in you because I see it, and the only reason why I see it is because it lives in me. Uh-oh. So all those people you've been talking about, you've been talking about yourself. Did I say that? I did, huh? You've been talking about yourself, okay? There it is, plain and simple. Been talking about ourselves, because that which we see in others lives in us. So it behooves me to look at the beauty and the joy and the abundance and the peace, the prosperity, the love that other people have, because when I see it in them, it means that it lives in me. That's what I say. Woo-hoo! Because when I see it in you, it means that it lives in me. And why would I want to continue to beat myself up and batter myself with what's wrong with you? Because then it really is just a reflection of who I am, when indeed the good that I seek is my God. That's what we learned early on with Emma. The good that I seek is my God. I lost my page here, but right? So in the work this week, I noticed for myself, or I ask myself, am I quick to notice the errors of others? Am I quick to notice the errors in others, the errors of others, their faults, their defects? Because where's my reset button? Hello? Where's my reset button? That is a point in time where if I am noticing that I notice the errors of others, that's when I can hit my reset button and go, enough of that. Reset. Pause. Power it down. Shut it down for a moment. And allow myself to be restored to my manufacturer's suggested programming. I see love. I see prosperity and abundance and joy and peace. Everywhere I go, I see God expressing beautifully and magnificently. You know, the other thing that we had an opportunity to do this week, which was really, really incredible, which is really part of our teaching, is that giving folks the dignity. Not that I could really give it to you or allow you to have it. It's really just MYOB. Mind your own business. I get to mind my own business and allow God to express beautifully and magnificently as you, and allow your path of growth and unfoldment to happen in the beautiful and divine way in which it happens, without me butting into it. Hello? If, in fact, I believe that there's a power and a presence, and that power and presence created everything out of itself, and that power and presence expresses beautifully and magnificently as each and every one of us, then why can't I trust that you know how to live your life, or that you're engaging in your spiritual practice or on your journey so tough and so secure that even if, in my opinion, it may seem that you're going awry, so let it be. That's your journey. Mine was like this. So yours is like this. Who cares? It's your journey. It's your life. I get to MYOB. I get to hit the reset button and I think I know it all, or I know how you need to engage in your spiritual practice, or how you need to live your life from day to day. Some people, hey, meditation is not for me right now, and go years without meditating. And then one day, boom, I better sit down and meditate. It takes what it takes. It takes what it takes so that we can really begin to appreciate and know our life as the life of God, as the life of beauty, as a life of peace, as a life of joy. We get to know that we are life expressing beautifully and magnificently, and that we get to do that without the dogma, without necessarily having someone interrupting and telling us what it should look like. It looks like what it looks like. If your life is that life that God is, I get to let it be. And we get to let it be. And we get to allow life and God to unfold in the beautiful way that it expresses and unfolds in, through, and as your very life. Period. Period. The other thing that Emma talks about that we get to hit the reset button on is our own idea and agenda about what things need to look like. For instance, it's been known, and rumors around Christian Science, they don't go to doctors. Heal thyself, practitioner. And so be it. So be it. Emma talks about the conviction of our belief. If you believe that you can heal your body, meaning really heal the content of your consciousness, your thoughts, if you can begin to know the truth that God is living in, through, and as you right now, and a healing takes place, then it is through the power of that conviction and your knowing that it took place. And if you believe that the doctors have the answer, and that the answer is in medicine, and that is what you believe, and you believe that with your conviction, then so be it. You believe so much so that you experience the healing. The key is that there's no one way to our own healing, to our own unfoldment, to our own growth, to our own spiritual journey. It is indeed incumbent upon each and every one of us to really celebrate our own spiritual path, to really explore our road to freedom, to contemplate on the ideas of the great avatars and the great writers and the people who have come before us and the people who walk beside us every day, because we are each revealers of truth. It is incumbent upon us to hear those experiences and yet be secure in our own, knowing beyond the shadow of a doubt that this life, meaning the life that's in your seat right now, do that with me. This life is the life that God is. Yeah. And your path is your path. So your journey is your journey. That is your freedom. And to the degree in which you dedicate your energy and your time to knowing what it is that you believe, to clearing up the wreckage or some of the old ideas that are not true about who you are, to the degree in which you participate in actively knowing and anchoring within yourself this idea that right where I am, God is. God is living me right now. To the degree in which we embrace that and know that we get an opportunity to really live in this freedom, to really know this truth, to really allow others to live their freedom and their joy and really find their path and their roadway to their own freedom. Creation didn't just create one flower. There are many flowers, many trees, many plants, funguses. There's what we call weeds even. There's an abundance and a plethora of life, and it expresses differently. Just as different as our fingerprints or our DNA and how it can tell the difference between one and another. Our own path is our own path. And we get to have the dignity to be in our spiritual path. We get to hit the reset button when we want to tell somebody what they should be doing or not doing. Or we know better because we've been studying over at Seaside Center for Spiritual Living for 7 years now. And honey, this is what you need to do, because I know. We get to simply allow. And sometimes that road that folks take may be the bumpy road. It may be the road less traveled. It may be the road that kind of has some adventure, as I like to call it. But it's still that person's road. And that is still God having that experience and living perfectly as each and every one of us. So we get to stop controlling, take our hands out of it, let it go. We get to focus here and stop letting other people, other things, how they live, what they're doing, who they love, where they go, all of that, how much money they got, how much money they don't have, what they're driving, what they're wearing to church on Sunday or Wednesday night, whatever. We get to let it go. We get to not let that be a distraction to our own practice. Because as we focus and as we hit the reset button over and over again and restore ourselves to our manufacturer's suggested programming, we then begin to live from that place of that which is true of God is true about me. The love that God is, I am. The peace that God is, I am. The joy that God is, I am. The abundance that God is, I am. The harmony that God is, I am. The wholeness that God is, I am. The perfection that God is, I am. The wisdom that God is, I am. When we begin to embrace that and embody that and know that and allow ourselves not to be distracted, when we begin to see that beyond the shadow of a doubt and look at folks and go, there's God right there. Look at God showing up so beautifully. Look at the love that she's expressing. Look at her dedication. Look at how hard he works. Look at how he takes care of his family. Look at how he loves his family. Wow, look at how this person is so generous of their time. Instead of, he's just doing that because the TV cameras are around. Or behind closed doors, he really yells at his wife. He's not that loving. Instead of looking at that stuff, we begin to see the good, the God. We begin to know that. And it's really just that reflection of who we are. We get to hit the reset button, and we get to pause and be still and know that right where I am, God is. That is how we begin to really experience the freedom that Emma Curtis Hopkins is talking about. That is how we begin to really live from this place of power, from this place of peace, from this place of harmony, from this place of love, from this place of joy, beyond what we currently know. And if you like what you're getting right now, imagine what happens when we continue to work, when we continue to play in this arena of seeing the good in all, of naming it good, of seeing it as God expressing in each and every way. I have a reset button. There are many times during the day where I get to hit it, and I'm glad. Sometimes I gently push it. Sometimes it's like, ooh, reset. I don't like that thought, right? But it's there. It's that opportunity to just hit that reset button, to shut it down, to be restored to my truth, And then when I awaken, like the computer does, then to live from that place. So let's shut it down right now. Let's simply begin to gently close our eyes if you're comfortable, and begin to recognize maybe some of those areas that we need to push the reset button on in our life. Maybe it happened today before we got here. Maybe it happened yesterday. But bring to mind maybe one or two areas where you are consciously going to remember that you have a reset button, and that you know exactly where it is, and that you get to push it. And as you hit the reset button, see yourself simply shutting it down, powering down, knowing that our consciousness and the content in our consciousness is being reviewed, and that which is not the truth of who we are is simply eliminated, deleted. It is taken out of our operating system. It's not only thrown in the trash, but it is deleted entirely, never to return, never to be installed again. And that in the stillness, when that cleaning is done, that there's this allowance of the manufacturer's original truth being reinstalled, being remembered, that we know our truth. That it is being installed again and again and again in such a way that in a few minutes, when we awaken, we will know our truth for ourselves, and we will know this same truth about one another, and we will experience our wholeness. So we simply let love, source, spirit do its original installation work.